Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. Robbie Anderson, the star Panthers wide receiver, was traded to the Arizona Cardinals. It's not at all surprising that Robbie Anderson was traded. He's a star wide receiver, but he's getting up there in age, and he's on a terrible team. So it makes all the sense in the world for him to go to a contender, try and win a Super Bowl, and help that team win the Super Bowl. But the Arizona Cardinals is the last team I ever would have expected for Robbie Anderson to go to. Because they have so many quality receivers already. I don't think this changes anything for the Cardinals. The issue was the defense. So, the Cardinals have DeAndre Hopkins, the superstar #1 wide receiver on the team. Then you got Marquise Brown. Now, he's going to be injured for the next couple of weeks. So, Robbie Anderson should be able to fill that void. But he was good before DeAndre Hopkins came back, and he will be back this week. It makes no sense to me why you need 3 quality wide receivers like that. And then, you've also got AJ Green, the former superstar, who's not producing the same way, but he's still a fine wide receiver. And Rondale Moore, the sophomore, who has plenty of potential, but has never gotten an opportunity to prove that potential because there's so many wide receivers in front of him. But the biggest thing is, when you watch the Cardinals games, wide receiver is not an issue. Keep in mind, you've also got tight ends Trey McBride and Zach Ertz on that team. So there is no shortage of pass catchers whatsoever. The whole offense is running fine. It's the defense that can't do a thing for the life of them. So it would make so much more sense if Steve Keim were to trade for a defensive player. They could have gotten Deion Jones a week ago until he went to Cleveland. Could have gotten tons of players, but instead they went for the wide receiver. I don't get what Steve Keim is thinking. And this is a really big decision for Steve Keim because both him and head coach Cliff Kingsbury are on the hot seat, which means that come the end of the season, it's possible that both those guys get fired. And that could be because the defense does not perform, which would be entirely Steve Keim's fault. He's gotten plenty of opportunities to fix the defense, but he hasn't done a thing. Now, it's still possible he does. Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn are both prime trade candidates out there. Not for certain that they will be traded, but I bet you the Cardinals could sweeten the Bears into an offer for at least Robert Quinn. And that would make that team 100 times better. But I don't think Robbie Anderson does. Now, the Panthers didn't exactly get the cream of the crop with this deal either. In exchange, the Carolina Panthers got a 2024 6th-round pick and a 2025 7th-round pick. That isn't exactly going to kickstart their rebuild. I mean, couldn't they have at least gotten something in 2023? 2023 5th-round pick, maybe? I would have done that trade. But a 2024 6th and a 2025 7th is just plain ridiculous. But at the same time, Anderson had to go. He was ejected from the game after a confrontation with interim head coach Steve Wilkes this past week. So he's obviously a cancer in the locker room. He's not a great guy you want on their team. And it makes sense to ship him out because they're a rebuilding team. Now, DJ Moore, on the other hand, is still on the roster. And it's looking more and more like DJ Moore will be there in the long term and will not be traded. It makes sense for a trade, as the things I've said before. He's worth value. He could kickstart their rebuild. But at the same time, whoever they have next at quarterback want some weapons. They need to have some weapons to perform. Look at Justin Fields. I bet you if you gave him a couple star wide receivers, then he'd be playing absolutely lights out. So the Panthers need to keep some weapons on their roster for whoever's next under center. And DJ Moore would be perfect. He seems to mesh pretty well with every single quarterback he's had, except Baker Mayfield so far. And he's pretty young, under contract for long term, so it makes all the sense in the world to keep him. But at the same time, they might be able to get a first-round pick and maybe a third-round pick for him. So that could kickstart the Panthers' rebuild into adding a new, younger receiver. But I would keep DJ Moore if I were the Panthers, along with Brian Burns and Derek Brown. It sounds like both of them are off limits as well, because they are young defensive studs. You want those guys on your team. So those two, Jeremy Chin and JC Horn, can be there when they're contending again. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again soon with another Sports with Dylan.